Hey friends, you know what I don't miss at all? That vicious week before the period. Feeling like I'm ready to crawl out of my skin, irritated by everything and everyone around me, bouncing between cravings for salty foods and sweets and back again. Now it's easier to manage PMS with estro control from Happy Mammoth. Estro Control contains science-backed herbal extracts called adaptogens. Now, here's the beauty about adaptogens. They help the body adapt to any stressors, like the chaotic hormonal changes that happen naturally throughout a menstruating person's life. And the biggest benefit? Feeling like myself again. That's what people mention over and over in their reviews. And there are over 17,000 reviews for Happy Mammoth products, including Estro Control. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code CORP, C-O-R-P, at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code CORP for 15% off today.
What's up, y'all? Y'all are listening to Living Corporate's flagship podcast. If you didn't know, Living Corporate helps organizations build employee engagement and market trust through data analytics and data transformation, our e-learning platform, and brand marketing storytelling. We're so excited for you to be here today. The conversation you're about to hear is going to connect the dots between employee experience and go-to-market effectiveness. If you're not ready, get ready. Here we go. Recording artist, speaker, performer, creative, gamer, one of the most illustrious, succulent beards I've ever seen. Pat Jr. What's going on, Pat?
What's going on, man? I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the introduction, man. Nah, man. Thanks for the invite. And yeah, just for reaching out. I'm excited to be a part for sure.
Man, it's interesting. We were just talking off mic about one of our mutual connections, how we got connected on socials. And one thing I get excited about when I'm engaging, particularly, and I'm gonna just say it, Black creators in these spaces, just building their own careers, navigating, figuring out their paths. It's really refreshing to meet folks who are just down to earth, honest to goodness, just normal people, right? Like,
For sure.
I was looking at some of your content. I've been looking at your content for a while, but was looking at some of your like you're a silly dude, right? Like you enjoy anime, you enjoy being like you don't take yourself super serious, and I want to talk a little bit about just your journey in this space, right? Like I know that you released some music back when you was in high school, and like while it might have been a hobby for you then, you always took it seriously, But what was it like, getting started in something that wasn't paying your bills, but you were passionate about and wanted it to be something substantial? Like, what was your foray into just music?
I mean, honestly, like I could take it back to being in middle school and like my mom. So my mom and my family are super like creative people, low key meaning like some people. I would say most of my aunts and uncles really didn't pursue it like as a profession. So it was just something that they were creative, like with doing, or they were just creative people, but they never like pursued it as a vocation, I should say. For me, I would say I'm like, and it's a great question because I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm the only person in my family I would say to pursue it on my mom's side, like as a vocation. Um, and that's crazy. Like just thinking about that right now as I'm reflecting, that's crazy. Um, but like as far as when it started, I would say like my mom has always been a big music person. She's put me on to like a ton of music, you know what I'm saying, over the years from different genres. And like I have been, just honored to, and just I'm super grateful that was my introduction to music. It wasn't just one genre, it was multiple genres. And I remember as a kid, like taking her tape recorder, like secretly, and like, and she like when she tells this story, she was like, he would take my good tapes, my my good tapes, and record. Like I'll get instrumentals, burn them on a CD. That makes me sound kind of old now that I think about it. But burn them on a CD, put them. I had like a 6 disc uh CD changer / stereo, you know what I'm saying? I had the combination. And then I would play instrumentals from the 6 disc changer and like hit record on her tape recorder and just like record my raps like onto her tapes. And I would play them for her, but she couldn't be 100% mad at me because she was just like he's utilizing, this gift that he has with words. And my mom is the same way. Um, that's how I kind of got started in high school. I did put out one project, but like I would say my journey, or I guess my serious pursuit in music wasn't until after college, because in high school I put out this one project and it was like halted like by, and I've talked about it in some of my, like in other interviews, where I was at this church that was very much so like a toxic cultured church, where one of the things that they stood strong against was like hip hop music. And so the pastor stood me up in front of like 2,000 people and rebuked me for doing rap music.
Oh my gosh, that is traumatic.
Very traumatic. And thank God for therapy, because like, I've worked through it and working through it, you know what I'm saying? But like it stopped my music pursuits like completely until, after like some growth and just some soul searching and me getting away from that church. Like after I would say I graduated from college is when I started actually trying to do music again. And I would say that was around like 2015, 16. So it was like a few years, couple years like after I graduated from college or whatever. And so then that's when I actually pursued. So that was like my first 2016. My 2016 album was like my first fully released project on streaming services and all that stuff. So I've been at this like close to 10 years, you know what I'm saying, professionally. When I think on it, like my career is still fairly young. Like a lot of people who are seen as like, people still see me as very seasoned. I'll say that. Like people still see me as very seasoned in my craft. And that's just because I fervently pursue it. Like I'm not perfect, but I like one thing my mom taught me is always putting excellence forward. And the only way you can present excellence is if you actually practice it and research and study and practice it. And so that's how I've always been. I'm reading Kobe Bryant's Mamba Mentality right now, and just the work ethic is inspiring me, but also I'm reading in many cases I'm reading his work ethic and mentality and just the heart that he had for the game of basketball. It's very parallel. Like the way I see music, the way I see the art of rapping, the way I see producing and creativity, like it's something that I pursue to get better at, like on a regular basis. And I think that's why I've been able to level up in the 8 years that I've been doing this. I guess that's the right math. About 8 or 9, 8, 9 years I've been doing this. that's why I've been able to get I would say as good as I am in not just skill wise, but the way I approach music, the way I maneuver my branding, like all of that stuff. So, I mean, I got a Grammy. You know what I'm
We're gonna
saying?
talk about no, we're gonna talk about it. Listen, you said a lot of stuff in there that we gotta back it up. So
yeah.
So it's interesting because I saw that we have another person. Well, so he don't follow me back, but I'm a fan of his. But I see y'all follow each other. I think y'all know each other. It's Kev on Stage. So it's
okay.
So it's interesting when you made mention of church getting brought up in front of everybody. I mean, like that's a lot, and it's interesting too because as you think about like, so I grew up in the black church as well, and I think there's like there's kind of like there's two camps within like for black creatives and how church engages black creativity. It's either hey, this is sinful or worldly or demonic and you shouldn't do it, or hey, you need to like say Jesus every other 5 seconds and do this only at church. Right? Like there's not really like a hey, it's not really like a hey, this is awesome. I'm so glad you found something that you enjoy that gives you joy.
In some cases, I know people that have been in churches where it's like I know in some cases and it's like in those cases it's been people from Africa, like my homie TK. Shout out to my homie TK in LA. Like his experience was completely different when he came up in church. It was like they pushed him. They was like they prayed over him. They was like, you know, go for this thing. And it wasn't like you have to do it this way. Yeah. It was just like as long as you ain't on no foolishness,
we got it.
Like we with you. Yeah. We support you. But it's always black or white, like you described. In most cases. It's definitely black and white.
Yeah, for sure. And so, man, like that's tough, right? So like, I mean, I'm gonna go back because you also talked about mama mentality and just like the work ethic of like as a musician, but so college went by, you didn't like you weren't creating music, put it down. What did it look like for you to kind of unwind and re-engage your musical journey? And if I may ask, like, what were the spiritual implications of that for you as well? Because I would imagine there was some type of grappling. If it's like, well, dang, if I do this, this means I'm putting this down. If I'm doing this, it means I'm putting this down. Like, what was that like for you? So,
although I wasn't making music, I was still writing. So I was very much so into like spoken word poetry. Like I was still performing. I was still doing poetry because it's like for me, and this is a good conversation for me because it's kind of like,
this podcast, Living Corporate, it's brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with the audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place on your terms. Let me tell you something. Y'all might not know this, but Living Corporate, we started our whole journey on Squarespace. My website, ZacharyNunn.com, it's on Squarespace. I can't tell you how much I appreciate its fluid engine, the ability to create world-class templates and design. It's very intuitive, incredible. We have custom merch through our Squarespace. We have an incredible asset library so I can always mix it up, switch and swap. It's super dope. And the fact that you can host all types of content, video, audio, all types of media, you can put all on your Squarespace. I can't recommend it enough. If you want to learn more about Squarespace, check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/corporate to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Again, that's squarespace.com/corporate to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Living Corporate is brought to you by Rosetta Stone, the most trusted language learning program. It's incredible. Okay, so first off, you didn't know, Rosetta Stone is a trusted expert for over 30 years with millions of users and 25 languages offered. They have fast language acquisition, meaning you're actually going to pick up the language because it's going to provide an immersive experience for you through their program. Speech recognition gives you a trainer for your accent. Convenient, right? You can use it on your computer. You can use it on your phone. Incredible value. Lifetime membership has all languages for any and all trips or language needs in life. That's lifetime access to 25 language courses Rosetta Stone's offers for 50% off. That's a steal, y'all. So don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a limited time, Living Corporate listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. Visit rosettastone.com/today. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% off at rosettastone.com/today today.
It's really reiterating certain things for me in my heart and in my mind, because as an artist, sometimes like you deal with like second guessing, like I'm at a stage now where I'm very confident in my skill level and what I can do and where I'm going to be and what I'm striving to be skill level wise and talent wise. But sometimes you wonder, with so many things changing in the industry, is this still for me? Is this still the career path that I want to actually pursue? Whether God says, it is, sometimes I feel like maybe this ain't like, and that's from an industry perspective, but anyway, like I still did spoken word poetry because that's where my heart is at. Like I love writing. I love putting there's twofold. Like I love expression first and foremost. Like I love expression. I'm very much so a communicator. That's the kind of family that I grew up in. Is a communicating, family. My mom wrote poetry, all of it unpublished, but she still wrote poetry. She shared it with me. So I'm very much so a communicator and an expressionist, if you will. And then being able to poetically put that together into words and do it in a really cool way, whether it's storytelling or just using figurative language or whatever the case is the fun part to me. I am somebody that can foresee a lot of certain things happening just when it comes to like very formulaic ways of art, if you will. So like movies, I'm the guy that can tell you, oh yeah, this is about to happen, unless the script is really good.
Word.
But I can always kind of see where certain things are about to go. That's just like one example. So like music, even when it comes to video games, once I figure out the mechanics, that's it. Like,
yeah,
it's a wrap.
Yeah.
But when it comes to music, when it comes to writing, that is one of the things, the very few things in life that challenges me every time I sit down, because I have to, I'm writing a different song almost every time, or I'm writing an evolved version of a song. So I might have written on the same subject a year or two ago, but now I'm approaching it, the same subject from an evolved mind or a mind or heart that's grown. But it challenges me every time, even when I'm producing for myself. Like I'm finding new ways to make sure that I'm expressing myself in the music, in the sound, and that my vocals also match it. And so that's I guess a longer explanation to what kept me was the writing, the expression aspect of it. So that always remained the same. And then by the time I started making music again after that time period, a lot of people don't know this. I'm not the person to share it often, like, because I don't know how to share it as much. But I have my master's in creative writing. So
That's hard.
I went to school to learn. Say it again.
That's hard.
Oh, I thank you, man. Yeah, I know how to script write. I know how to storyboard for movies, for video games, for comic books. Like I might be a little rusty, but like the general knowledge on how to do it is still there. And so like I think to a degree that gives me an advantage when it comes to like how to roll out certain things like as an artist. Just that knowledge and that ability. But when I went to school, they gave us all they in the school tuition you pay for a MacBook Pro. And so when I got the MacBook, I started messing around with GarageBand, and that's when I started learning how to make my own beats. So that's where that like the beat making kind of like for myself kind of, because I would always hear things in my head like as an artist, like hear music in my head, and I'm like, man, should I learn how to make beats? And then that's how that thing came about now. So or back then I should say. But yeah, man, like I like the passion for expression in a very poetic way, and using literary devices is what kept me in that. Even without the music, it kept me, and then part of it was just like a lot of I don't know the antonym of brainwashing, but undoing a lot of that.
Yeah, man.
Undoing a lot of that brainwashing and doing my own soul searching. Like I very much so am, a believer in God. I am a Christian, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm a follower of Christ or what have you. And a lot of that was knowing me, learning and knowing God for myself.
Word.
Right? Like there's a passage in the Bible that talks about working out your own soul salvation.
With
like,
fear and trembling, yeah.
Just because my mama know God and my grandmother knew God or my grandfather knew God or my mentor knows God, that doesn't mean that I know God. I can't know God through them. I can learn about God through them, but I can't know God through them. I have to know God for myself.
Right.
And what that looks like in my life with the many things that I do. And so I think a lot of the black church is very much so they know God through their pastor. And that's very dangerous. Like it's very dangerous. It's also very cult-like too. But it's very dangerous, and I never want to be in that position again. If I ever see somebody like that, I'm going to again. I'm going
other way. Yeah.
Like I'm very thankful that I'm at a church now that truly and genuinely our pastor teaches us to study and encourages us to study and know God for ourselves. And so, yeah, I'm super thankful for that. And from the jump, when we left, me and my wife left our old church and we went to this new church, he was very much so encouraging to for me to pursue my gifts, you know what I'm saying? My passion.
Yeah, man.
Shout out to Pastor Jerome. Like he, even when it comes to me using profanity in my music, he's like, hey man, you're not celebrating anything negative. You're not talking crazy. It's expression. Do your thing, bro.
I love that, man. So you mentioned your wife, because that's the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about. Because even in our conversation, you start off talking about your upbringing with your mom. Obviously, community is important to you. That you wouldn't have submitted yourself to a religious space in college if that wasn't important. Obviously, your family's important. Your mom's a key element of your upbringing and story. You talked about your family being a part of you're the only person doing this vocationally. However, you have a family full of creative and musically inclined people.
I wouldn't say not all musically inclined. There's maybe one or two that are.
Okay.
But just
creative.
And that's what I love about it too. Just the the versatility, my aunt who passed away years ago, she was a painter. She knew how to. She was a great painter. She taught me how to play chess. She was a great painter, but also she played piano. You know what I'm saying? I have a brother who, on my dad's side, who's a painter as well. My mom, she wrote poetry, but she's a curator. Like, you know what I'm saying? So just different, but not too many people who were, like, maybe one or two who are musically inclined.
Receive.
Yeah,
Receive.
I didn't mean to.
Nah, correct me. No, correct me. It's gonna go out.
Yeah.
No. So, but again, like, my point is that connection, relationship, community, these things are obviously they're important to you. And as anyone who, like, really engages your music, they know that as well. This year, you and your wife are celebrating, I believe, 14 years of marriage.
Yeah, bro.
18 years of being together. It's almost 20 years of just being together.
Yeah.
It's
kind of crazy, bro.
It's really crazy. I think as Black business owners and entrepreneurs, particularly Black men, but certainly Black women as well, because I don't want to create no gender wars. Because we're gonna talk about
to the Black queens, man.
Shout out to the Black queens, because and it was funny. Side note, before I get to my question, it was funny because you tweeted something about asking your wife for something. No, your wife asked you to go do something, and then you asked for advice, and I was like, well, it depends on what you're trying to, what's your credit score, and that went like super left. I was like, oh gosh, and the funny part is the person who got upset is a mutual follower of mine. I was like, oh no, so. It was a mess, Pat. I was like, how does that, Pat?
Well, what was funny about that is, like, I was playfully asking for advice, like, kind of like, I was gonna go regardless, but in my mind I was like, man, should I go, y'all? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
people took it super serious.
Right. Some people just took it so serious, and the way you responded was the perfect response, because I think I said something back to you, like, I was like, ball, bro,
yeah. So for the listeners, like, for the people like who weren't there, like Pat's wife asked him to go run an errand. He playfully
She wanted me to go to Krispy Kreme. That's what she wanted.
Oh snap! Okay, wanted you to go Krispy Kreme.
Right.
Pat gets on Twitter, playfully asks, "Hey, yo, should I really go?" My response was, I was like, well, it depends on what you're trying to get in the next 48 hours.
What your credit,
and what your credit score is, right? And I was just joking. Other people replied, was like, you really asking Twitter if you're gonna go and get something for your wife? You don't love your wife? Huh? This is your problem. This is why I done it. I was like, oh my goodness gracious.
I was like, and the funny part was that me and my wife, what people don't know is we were sitting back laughing at some of the responses, some of the silly responses, should I say? I'll be nice and say silly responses.
There you go.
But like, I would say for the most part, like, followers were like, being, they were like you, like they were making a joke out of it. There was some seriousness in there to it, but it was still more so of a joke.
It was light.
It was light. It was very lighthearted. And then, like, some of the women, which I respect, like, you know what I'm saying, that replied back, who are married, let me add that too, was like, yes, you should go and make sure the hot light is on. I respect it. Respect. You know what I'm saying? But some of y'all single folk, man. And some of y'all married folks,
married folks. I was like, yo. And I was like, you know what? Everybody's carrying things that we don't see. So, but it was just so funny. And it made me chuckle.
It was a funny place.
It made me chuckle because, man, okay. Let me ask my question. I'm going to get into this other part, though, about audience and engagement. So again, you and your wife been together. Y'all coming up on 18 total years of just being in a relationship.
14 years of marriage.
14 years of marriage. And so I'm curious, right? Like, she was really with you from the beginning, or at least like the beginning parts of your career. What has that been like? I think for, again, like, Black men and Black creators in general, entrepreneurship is one of the most, it's the loneliest place, right? In some ways it's even lonelier than corporate America, and corporate America can be wildly isolating and lonely, and yet entrepreneurship can be even more so because it's really just you, right? Like the barrier,
Yeah.
now yes, there's market forces and there's blah 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 blah, there's algorithms, there's blah blah blah, but ultimately in entrepreneurship, you know, you're the engine between you, the thing between you and success is your effort, right? It's you deciding it.
Right.
And
Right.
but oftentimes it can feel like so much work just to get that machine going.
Yeah.
I can speak for myself and say, look, it's been 11 years of marriage for me and my wife, and man, like I just I don't think I know that living corporate wouldn't be here, and I don't even know how much how much of me would be here, and so if it wasn't for her. So I'm curious as to like what role or impact has like having like a wife, I'm gonna presume, is supportive
Yes.
of
Yeah.
your endeavors. Like what role does that have as as an entrepreneur?
Man, I mean, man, it's to say it's a blessing is an understatement. Because you know my wife is my rock, man. She's very supportive of what I'm doing. I remember like, and I've told this story a couple of times, but I remember like so from the jump. If I can be completely honest, she wasn't 100% sold on this music thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially with the church that we came from, you know, it was very much so go to college, get your degree, get a 9 to 5 paying job, which I was with. Like, I never started off wanting to do music. Like, I was all about having the financial security, like from the jump, right? Because that's how I was taught. You know what I'm saying? I knew that I wanted to do something creative, but I never really was steered in that direction because that's my mom. I just think that's the generation, like, behind us. That's well, not in front of us, I should say. However that looks, above us, the generation above us, like, that's that was their method of, you know, financial security or being successful, I should say. And it didn't translate well. Like I had this conversation. I've had the pleasure and the honor of building with one of my favorite artists, I should say, rappers of all time, which is Fonte. And he kind of broke down to me how millennials, like, we're in this really weird place like when it comes to like just the generations and the timing that we came into the world and all of that jazz. And so like for millennials, we were told, I won't say a lie, but we were giving misinformation due to a transition of economic status, social status. I would also say like just knowledge, technology as well.
Yeah.
Like all of those things kind of transitioned or changed very quickly for us. Or we just kind of like walked into that transitional, that quick transitional period in the world, and so we had to adapt very quickly. And some of us are still adapting, and that's okay. But like I was just given like, hey, go to college, get a job. That's how you be successful. That's how you make yourself. That's how you be a successful black man. Like you need to be educated. There wasn't, oh, what's your passion? What's your gifts? What do you want to, it was just go get a job. I didn't really care about rap or music at the time. So I was very much so, especially like going to the church I was at, I was very much so, okay, cool. I'll go get a job. I'll go do X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. This, that, and the third. And so I was with all of that. I was with all the action. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. But I would say, like, me and my wife, so we started dating in the beginning of our, I would say towards the end of our, no, the beginning of our senior year, or I say halfway through our senior year in college. Yeah, halfway through our senior year in college is when we started like dating, I would say. And then all throughout, not, I'm sorry, not college, high school. In high school, and then we dated all throughout college. Um so that's the 4 years, or 5 years rather, you know what I'm saying, that we were together, and then we got married. But like in my wrestling with the whole music thing, like I wasn't, music was far beyond me. So when we got married and I was like, yeah, I want to do the music thing, it's still like she wasn't too sure about it, but I wasn't either. Like it was just kind of like, if I end up actually, like, I want to do this, but my plan is to work, and then eventually save enough money to leave when things start getting successful. God didn't have those plans. He was like, nah, bro. Like, I'm gonna keep laying you. I'm gonna keep allowing you to get laid off from these jobs until you get it, and then actually pursue it. So that's what happened to me. I didn't get the fairy tale of I didn't get the fairy tale of um saving up all the money and then making that Facebook or social media post and saying, hey y'all, I'm leaving my job. It was like, nah, it wasn't beautiful like that, bro. But I mean, in the beginning we weren't sure. She wasn't sure. As a matter of fact, like even when we were kind of pushed to make the decision, when I got laid off from the last job that I had, she still wasn't 100% sure. It's always been about faith for us. Like, I wouldn't say, I didn't know she was sure until I remember when I was gonna quit like music, quit rap, like because I do more than just like my artistry. Like I have a business, I have a sound design business, Pelham Jr. And that actually helped propel me into being able to do music full time. But like I remember when I was gonna quit rapping, and like she cried. You know what I'm saying? Like she actually was upset that I had thought about not rapping anymore and not making music, because she knew that that was like out of everything that I do, like that's my true passion, is to pursue music and making music and making it a part of you know my living, if you will, or our living, or what have you. And so that's when I knew for sure that she was like 100% in, 10 toes down. Not to say that she wasn't at all, but that's when I knew like she was like in it. You know what I'm saying? But she's always been supportive, even with us trying to figure it out, because she knew that it was something that I wanted to pursue. The sacrifices of time that she would make in our relationship, of spending time together, like the late hours of me being up at night, and still sometimes like just all of the territory it comes with, sometimes things shifting and changing, where I think and this is along the way, I think money's gonna come in, but it got changed to something else. Or uh, like in the beginning of my like pursuing it full time in 2016, I remember I was working with certain people, like selling beats, I was doing shows or whatever the case is, and some people would change their mind. I was doing video at the time too. Some people would change their mind and be like we talked about earlier, it's just like before we started recording, is about like people coming to you with vague ideas that they want to pay you to do, and then they change their mind. And like her having to deal with that, not having a full sure sense of financial security as a woman. Like for women, that's a big deal. Like having that full sense of financial security, and as an entrepreneur, especially as an artist, I can't speak for other like business owners and stuff, but like as an entrepreneur, starting out 2016 and kind of just going with that, it's like sometimes that full sense of financial security is not there. Like
Real
it's
talk.
just
You and I think, and especially, I'm of the mind, I'm big on bootstrapping. So I'm not really out here looking for no VC money. I'm not
for
looking for
sure.
you to own, you know, 40% of my stuff so you can give me some a runway to do something else. I don't like that. I don't like being really indebted to people like that. I'm big on like just being debt free. So like when you go that route, the financial part can get a little shakier, especially when you're a black or brown person trying to make it work. It's not like opportunity just knocking at your door, and they're not really necessarily knocking at your door, period. But they certainly, and I think what's interesting about I think with entrepreneurs for black and brown entrepreneurs specifically is, let's say you do get a sponsorship or some type of opportunity to work with some brand or whatever, the bag
Right.
that you're gonna get ain't gonna be the same as
Right.
the bag that your white counterpart gonna get. Like that bag
Right.
probably 6-7 times bigger, and you'll never know. But now stuff's coming out, and because of technology, things are getting more put on Front Street. But it's tough, right? Like I think that's hard. I think that's a hard pill to swallow for in the entrepreneurship space. If you're trying to do it on your own, you're trying to build it a certain way, then there's much more uncertainty, and there's just a lot more discomfort. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful, but that path is going to have a lot more winds and dips and turns to it than not. Speaking of, to your point about like, man, your wife being there, thinking things are going to go one way, they're not. For me, Pat, like I've had to, and I continue. I struggle with this in my personal life, and it does impact my entrepreneurial journey too, which is just boundaries,
Yeah.
right? Boundaries in terms of, okay, how am I gonna work? What kind of relationships do I want to have? If I show up to an interview, how do I want to be engaged? If I'm gonna be
Right.
featured somewhere, like, hey, if I'm gonna collaborate with somebody, here's the experience that I want to have, and
Yeah.
and embracing the fact that like some of those boundaries may bristle against the standards of the industry I'm engaging, right? And so
Yeah.
like that's something I'm learning. I'd love to hear more about what boundaries have you had to establish and or are still exploring as an artist, as an entrepreneur, that may or may not fit within, you know, standard deviation, standard expectations, and what if any impact that's had to you.
I would say it. I would say it has had very little to no impact, and I know that sounds crazy, but the way I look at it is what God has for me is for me. That's number one, and number two is all money ain't good money. You know what I'm saying? Know your worth. I actually have a song called Boundaries. I don't know if you heard it in like and you listening. Okay, so you heard it, you listen to it like I say that all money ain't good money, know your worth. Like to me, that doesn't just mean know your worth and ask for that worth or say, hey, this is what I'm willing to work for. But it also means just because you're offered the bag, that doesn't mean that you should take it. It may not be good money. Like, in a sense of it, not in the sense of it's lower than what your worth is, but in a sense of once you take that transaction, that is a connected relationship now. Like that is. I don't think people understand the value of money in the sense that is once you take that money, that is a connected relationship. Like a transaction is like people say that when it comes, they want relationships instead of just transactions, which is true, but transactions are a form of a relationship because now I have to meet deadlines. Now there's an expectation for me to do things the way, you know, this way that we're doing it the next time we do it, again, for the same price or whatever the case is like, right? So, or do I want to necessarily be tied to this brand or this person just because I'm taking the money? Like, I think about, for an example, when I think about on the producer side of things, when I'm working with an artist, somebody may not have the passion and artistic integrity and viewscape or the mind frame to make timeless music. Like, I want to make timeless music, and they offer me 20 grand, which I've never been paid for one beat. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody offers me 10 grand for a feature or 20 grand for a feature. I may, depending on who it is, I may or may not take it. Just because the money is there, that doesn't mean that I want to align myself with this person or give my music to somebody who's lackluster, or jump on a track that with an artist who, like, we may not have the same vision, the same ability. Like, you might be out here, you know, for lack of just an example, you might be out here beating on women. You know, you might be a misogynist. I'm not getting on a verse with you no matter how much you pay me. So that all money ain't good money, know your worth is a double entendre, because it stands for just not just having integrity, but also knowing your worth. Like, also, just for me, it's just like, I know my worth. I'm not going to take anything less. I don't mind negotiating. If you come with a budget, we can negotiate. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? But there's a certain extent to where I'm just going to say, no, that's too low. I can't do it for that cheap, you know, because of what my brand is and the value that I know I'm bringing to the table. And so, but for me, is like, the impact for me of saying no, like, I rap about it on the mixtape. You know what I'm saying? On the second track is Make the Mold. Like, on my latest mixtape, like, I talk about, or I mention in the second verse about a company or a situation where I turned down 20 grand. like I said no to 20 grand in a big opportunity, because I saw on the other side how, in the bigger like scope of things, like, first of all, I said no, and then you wanted to offer me pennies on something else, and it's just like, nah, bro, like,
nah. And what you're saying, man, like, Pat, like, they're so dope, because to your point, when you say, like, know your worth, a lot of times it's like, hey, here's your price book, demand your price book. But know your worth, know your value is really also about knowing what to say no to, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
your inner worth is.
Right,
yeah.
What your inner worth is, right? So, like, you might not say yes to jumping on the track with a little fentanyl, right? You might not say, yeah.
Not little fentanyl.
Little fentanyl. Little fifth, right? Or Zempi, you know, something crazy.
Come on.
You might say no. You might have to say no. You know, if Rap Snacks offer you a deal and your beard is not colored right, you might have to say no. Mess around, look like Boosie.
Yeah, bro, I can't stand with, look, man, let me say this too, bro. And I don't know if I can't cuss, then I'm gonna cuss.
Nah, say it. Go ahead.
Okay, bro, stop fucking using that picture of me with the black beard, bro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that, because so when we, like, for this, when we put it out on the pod, I was looking at your pictures, and I was like, obviously the beard is a branding choice. Let me make sure I find.
Thank you.
Like, even if I do a black and white, I'm gonna still make sure that this part is still right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, you gotta say no. I mean, look, man, I'll tell you, like, there's so many things that I've said no to, or just simply not engaged, because it's like, hey, this isn't alignment.
That's a good one.
Yeah, man.
That's a good one. Sometimes just leave it on red, bro. Or leave it unread.
Leave it unread.
You know what I'm saying?
Respectfully. It's no shade.
Yeah, just like, Nah, you ain't approaching me right.
It's
nah.
And then like, hey, you know what? I did a quick Googles. This isn't really resonating with me. My instincts, my spirit, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna just pass. You know what I'm saying? Like, and no problem. And here's the thing: the truth of the matter is that I can tell like you're a sensitive dude, and like I am too. Is like, we kind of will overthink that stuff, but the reality is, Pat, people do that every day. People leave people on red every day. Like people go, what is that? No, you know what I'm saying? Like man, I pitch. No, not as much, right? Because like so many times now for Living Corporate, like with you, like now, like if there's people that I'm talking to on Living Corporate, 90% of them are people that like have been pitched to me from some PR agency. 10% of people that I'm like, oh, you know what? I really want to talk to them. I find them very interesting. Let me engage them direct, right? But like, but there was a time when I was pitching people when that wasn't the case. When like our pod was just getting started, whatever, and man, I would get left on red all the time. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, and you know, you can't.
And sometimes it's not a personal thing. It's just sometimes, like the thing is too with me, like if you approach me in a very respectful and professional sense, like not like in most cases I respond. The times that I don't respond is when I just don't see it, and so that means hit me up in an email if you really want me to see it. Send it to my email. If it's again, I'm saying this again. If it's professional, in most cases I will respond. In the cases that I just don't see it. Like, and I just think sometimes social media can be a place where it's hit or miss. Like you try to reach out to somebody, and you know they don't, and you approach them in a professional sense, and it's just like, hey, but you never know. Like, in which kind of, I know this is super sidebar, but it's just like, which kind of goes to this thing that's something that I've been really, me and my wife have been talking about and has been a big topic of conversation, is people assuming the worst. I hate that. I hate when people assume the worst about me and who I am and about my character via tweet, through something somebody else heard, via them just filling in the gaps for me without having the conversation. I hate when people assume the worst. Don't assume the worst about people. Maybe they just got a lot of stuff going on, and they just didn't get a chance to respond to you yet.
Pat, man, let me tell you something, dog. Like, so many times. So first of all, I just wrote about this like on my newsletter, but I was explaining like, man, like just decentering yourself, right? Like, so many times, bro. Like I will. Like I'm like, let's say I'm talking to somebody. Let's say it's like this right here. Let's say you and I talked, and you said you're gonna be on the pod. You said cool. Then it was radio silence for like 2 months, right? I've had a pattern, to your point about assuming the worst. Not necessarily assuming the worst about saying, oh, they're a bad person, but like, oh, they just didn't want to talk to me, or they blew me off, or whatever. Like 9 times out of 9.5, when that person finally gets back to me, Pat, it be some trauma going on. Hey, I got in a car accident. Hey, my wife got sick. Hey,
or a family member died, and it
really slowed me. It took me out,
slowed me down. I got depressed.
Man, I'll never forget, man. Like when we, like our blog, like Living Corporate's blog, like when it was just getting off the ground, we had an editor. She was like really like she was the managing editor, and she like what I categorized at the time was she ghosted for like 6 months. And I was like, yo, she just up and dipped. Like, we have all these blogs, trying to get them up and out, da-da-da-da-da. So then later I said, I finally saw her online somewhere, or I saw her in a group. I saw something online, and I said, hey, yo, what happened? Yeah. And she said, and she replied back, said, ... Oh, you didn't see the news. And I said, what you talking about? Sent me an article, Pat, of a police report of a woman who got dragged out her car, beat, and her car got robbed, and it was her. She's like, I just got to the hospital like 2 months ago. Like, I've been recovering. I'm sorry I didn't communicate with you. It's been a lot going on. When I tell you I felt this small, I felt so dumb, right? Yeah, and I think the truth of the matter is, man, like, yes, sometimes people just get busy. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm gonna get back to it, but people be overwhelmed. And it's okay. Like, I think like a harsh truth, and this is a truth for like all entrepreneurs of all ages, but certainly I think millennials and Gen Zers is, fam, like you are just not that important. Like you're important to your mom, you're important to your uncles and your cousins, you're important to your significant other, but you're not that important to this other person's life where they're going out of their way to be malicious and harm you.
Right.
Like you're just not the main character in their story. They the main
Yeah.
character in their story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a hard thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say sometimes you can tell. Like, well, I won't say sometimes. A lot of the times I can tell, and it's not very often. It's just I'm an empath, and my discernment is very high, and I can tell. I can just tell when people shift. It's just, and it doesn't happen very often, but I can just tell when people shift, and I'm not. I do careful not to assume what the issue is, but I could just tell there's a problem
Same.
that you don't want to bring directly to me, especially if I reach out, and I'm talking like on not on a business level, but on a personal level, like somebody who I consider to be a homie or a friend or whatever the case is. Like I can tell, but in most cases, like you said, it's just stuff that just be going. Like sometimes people just get overwhelmed and they just fall off the grid. I got a homie like that. Like he's just like, man, sometimes for a minute I just got like maybe for a couple of weeks I just got to fall off the grid for a little bit. And I'm like, yo, cool. If I reach out, just let me know you alive. And he was like, all right, I got you, because I understand that you care about me and I care about you. So I'm going to just let you know, I'm off the grid for a little bit. As soon as I get myself back together, I'm going to hit you up. You know what I'm saying? And it's peace and it's love and it's respect. But for people, when it comes to the business world, and then it too, like if certain people don't respond, you try to reach out a couple times, maybe just it ain't for you. It ain't for them at the moment. And
right.
then, you just you fall back and you give it space, but like it's never a good time or never a good idea, I should say, to assume the worst. It just
Pat, man, it's crazy because
it
I had like 8 other questions, but we coming up on time. We might have to do a part 2, but not might. I want to have a part 2. I don't want to be presumptuous. So let's figure out that.
Okay.
In the meantime,
I'm into it, man.
Listen, I enjoy this conversation. Like certain people, when I like Khalif, like I was like, okay, because he and I vibe so strong. I was like, man, this kind of person I know, whoever he like, I'm probably gonna like them too. And so then like when he and I, you know what I mean. Like there's certain people like, okay, no, if I vibe with this person, I probably gonna vibe with the people they like. So I'm just glad we got connected. I mean, there's so much here about entrepreneurship, creativity, build. I want to have you back because there's more I want to talk about. But let me give you space. Let me give you space though to promote your projects. I mean, as you think about like what's next, where can people learn about you? Where can they engage in music? I know you're everywhere that's streaming, but I'm gonna give you green space. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I need to You can find the basics, I'd say, on my website, iampatjunior.com. Make sure you spell junior out. So IAMPATJUN as in Nancy IOR.com. Currently I am working on newer music. I think people just know that just by seeing my socials. I am Pat Jr. is my handle. I'm mainly on Twitter and Instagram, but I do have a Discord as well. If you go to hit me up on socials if you want in on the Discord. Actually, my bad. I take that back. Discord.gg/GFSC. So that is the Goldfang Society community. Goldfang Society is like my team, my mantra. It's gonna be more things in the future. I don't want to give too much of that away. But like it's my way of life, it's my community, etc., etc. But yeah, Goldfang Society, shout out to the team, shout out to the gang. So discord.gg/GFSC. is the Discord. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm working on new music right now. I got, if you haven't heard anything, just go search Pat Jr., on wherever you listen to music, whether it be Apple, Spotify, wherever. I got stuff on Bandcamp. And the current project right now, the full project is Grill Talk Mixtape Volume 1. And then the latest thing that I put out recently is the Grill Talk Grammy Freestyle, which we should definitely talk about that on
We gotta talk about the Grammy. We gotta talk about the Grammy because your pre-work, all the mark anyway. Yeah, we gotta talk about it. It's just that I'm big on honoring time. So
yeah, for sure, I appreciate it. Yeah.
But listen, y'all, Pat Jr. All the links, information in the show notes. Entrepreneur, speaker, writer, rapper, creative, husband, all sorts of things. Pat, man, God bless you. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Let's talk again soon, man.
Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin from Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.